Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. It has been a day of breaking news. Potential explosive devices were discovered at the homes of former presidents Clinton and Obama. Here in Manhattan, CNN headquarters were evacuated when a device was found just blocks from our studios here in Midtown Manhattan. Also happening in New York, reaction to last night's gubernatorial debate between Andrew Cuomo and his main challenger, Dutchess County Executive Marc Molinaro.
You accepted $60,000 from Donald Trump and haven't returned it. You, when you were trying to make friends with the president when he first came to office, told him you wouldn't run against him. And you, sir, had him at your bachelor party. I didn't. I grew up on food stamps.
Are you saying you don't support Donald Trump?
I'm saying that I'm absolutely committed to the delivery of mental health service.
Do you support Donald Trump?
Let's get out of this conversation.
Do you support Donald Trump?
I support anyone who is going to effectively make an investment.
Do you support Donald Trump?
Mr.
Do you support Donald Trump?
Mr. Molinaro,
you can't answer it.
And that was just a glimpse of last night. Both candidates were up in arms about their relationship to President Donald Trump. However, gloves came off at the CBS Broadcast Center as they tackled key issues ranging from crackdown on corruption in Albany to the MTA's performance. Joining us now with the scorecard on how many punches were thrown, who took the hardest hits, and a look ahead to November's general election is the executive editor of the Gotham Gazette, Ben Max. Ben, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Jenna.
All right, so we did see an incredibly contentious debate. I believe that's how a lot of people were describing it on Twitter. In fact, the word aggressive was used a lot. So how would you describe the tone?
I think that hits the nail on the head. We used that in our headline to summarize the debate. It was a very aggressive debate led by Andrew Cuomo. Marc Molinaro, I think, came ready to throw some of his own criticism, but Cuomo really overpowered him and even the moderators at times. The governor came into the debate clearly looking to tie Molinaro to Donald Trump, and he made that point over and over again. And I think to some effect, Molinaro wasn't really ready to answer it and didn't have great answers for whether he supports the president or not and in what ways. And the other takeaway, I think, from the debate is that we didn't get that much of a clear picture about what Governor Cuomo wants to do in a third term or even what a Molinaro administration would look like.
What were some of the issues that seemed to get the two riled up the most that stood out to you?
Well, definitely the issue of corruption. That was a key for Molinaro, trying to paint the governor as corrupt or overseeing a corrupt administration. Several of the governor's associates have been convicted of public corruption and are headed to jail. The governor admitted that, acknowledged that, said, yes, people in my administration committed crimes and they're headed off. But then he tried to turn it back on Molinaro by continuing to bring up this alleged, what he called kickback scheme, that Molinaro's wife had gotten a job with a contractor of Dutchess County. There's not really a lot of substance to that. The job that Molinaro's wife got was very low paying and wasn't a long-term position. But the governor used it to some effect by being able to turn the tables as Molinaro went after him on the corruption issue. Still, Molinaro did get that point in several times that the governor's administration has been tainted by corruption. So that was one big one that was a center of discussion. The MTA was another one, although Molinaro didn't seem to really get the point across that it was the governor's fault that the subway has melted down in the way that it has, and that went back and forth a little bit. And then I think we saw a little bit of discussion about a few other issues like single-payer healthcare, where they actually both agreed that it's not something that New York should pursue.
And of course, there'll be some lawmakers in Albany disappointed at that. But one of the things that I wanted to get an understanding of is how well did Marc Molinaro do in terms of being able to hit or land punches against the governor? Because from watching the debate, it seemed very much like Cuomo was in attack mode and Molinaro was sort of on the ropes trying to defend himself.
I think that captures it well. The governor, I think, did dominate the discussion. He didn't really play by the rules. He decided when he wanted to talk and what questions he was going to ask. It was a pretty remarkable performance by Governor Cuomo. I think he approached it in a very different way than he did his primary debate with Cynthia Nixon, perhaps realizing that he could be a little bit more of the sort of bullying type of person that many people say he is, both in private and in public. Molinaro landed a few criticisms pretty well, I think, on the corruption front, a little bit on the MTA, But the governor had Molinaro more on his heels when he continued to repeatedly tie him to President Trump, who is deeply unpopular in New York overall. And Molinaro wasn't really able to delineate where he supports Trump, where he doesn't.
All right, well then, but of course the fact that there wasn't that much focus on upstate New York is one of the reasons why Marc Molinaro, once the debate was over, was pushing for a second debate to happen upstate and hopefully to include some of the other challengers to Governor Cuomo.
There are 3 other candidates who are going to be on the ballot: Howie Hawkins, Larry Sharpe, and Stephanie Miner. They were not invited to this first debate. Molinaro got his shot one-on-one with Cuomo. Now we have to see if there's any chance of Governor Cuomo agreeing to a second debate. It's probably unlikely, but all 4 of the other candidates have agreed to a League of Women Voters debate on November 1st, and everyone's trying to push Governor Cuomo to do it. It would be upstate, and I think for the voters of New York, it's pretty clear that more than just 1 hour of one-on-one debate is a good thing for the democracy in New York and something the governor should embrace. I mean, he did fairly well in this debate.
Well, one last question about just where things at least stand right now according to the polls, because the governor has an incredibly healthy lead. So does it behoove him to want to do this again when he might be pretty comfortable and say, I can just rest on my laurels until Election Day?
No, and he could have avoided doing any debates. I mean, that would have looked pretty bad, and he was starting to get a lot of press criticism for avoiding them to the extent that he did, and then he finally did agree to do the one. I don't know that he'll agree to another. It probably doesn't benefit him to be on the stage with 4 people who will be throwing attacks at him, but he's probably comfortable enough in the polls and in his financial advantages to do it and not really be hurt by it.
We will be looking forward, of course, to Election Day, and of course, we'll be looking to you for more analysis to see how this actually plays out.
Thanks.
Thank you.